Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of videos on how to take a battery out of these Ford Escapes. I think it's 13, 14, 15, maybe later than that, where you got to take these little clips out and take the windshield wipers off and unbolt this thing and do all that. I'm going to show you a different route that I take. I don't know if it's any faster, but you don't have to take this entire cowl off to get to the battery. So first things first, we're going to pull this cover. We'll set it over there. You can actually see the battery right now. Next thing's next. This little cover on the air box, there's a clip right here, little rubber plug. Pull that, and that unfolds like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the top of the air box off. There's two screws, this one and this one. They're both, I believe, 8mm. Now that the screws are removed, we'll pull this air box out of the way. Set it up there. Air filter comes out of the way. This thing's next. You see it right there. There's a screw right back here for the air box. It's a flat-headed screw. We take this air tube off. We're also going to unhook this sensor right here. Now that this sensor is unhooked, unplug the sensor, pull out this little hold down with a body puller, and that screw is undone back there. Just going to grab this and pull up. I'm going to need both hands for this. It's in there, but it's just, watch. Just pops out like that. Make sure while you're pulling up that you fold this back so it's out of the way. Next thing, panel in front of the battery. This wiring harness needs to be dropped. You'll need that body puller one more time. Once this wiring harness is out of the way, you have to undo the positive terminal. Once the positive terminal is out of the way, this whole piece will fall down and it's out of the way. Next, you got to undo the tie downs up here. This is good if you have like a short 10mm 1/4 inch socket. Once the bolts are removed, then you pull out the tie down that holds down the battery. Once the tie down's removed, push up on the battery and pull towards you, and it'll bring it over the lip. You can use the positive post to grab onto to slide the battery slightly towards you. The next fun part is right back there. You can see the negative cable is hooked around a piece of plastic. So you're gonna have to reach back there and unhook it. Then you'll be able to slide the battery all the way out. Once the negative cable is unhooked, you can slide the battery all the way towards you. You go ahead and undo the negative cable. This battery's got a ton of corrosion on it, so we're gonna have to try and fix that as best we can. Be very careful of this little sensor too, by the way. If you pull too hard, you'll jerk it right off of there, and that's a bad day. For anybody that says you don't need corrosion protection, this is what happens when you don't have some kind of corrosion protection. And this is after I've cleaned it. This terminal should technically be replaced, but the person that I'm doing this for does not have the money for that. So we're going to clean it up as good as we can, put some corrosion pads on it, and hope that it stays. Now the battery's ready to go back in. You start by setting it down on top of the plate. You grab your negative terminal. You go ahead and hook that up. Once the negative terminal is hooked up, you slide the battery back into the slot like this. Of course, it's easier to do with two hands, but basically just push the battery back in. I need two hands. Now that the new battery's back in its place, we go ahead and take the brace. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Once the battery's back in its slot, first thing you got to do is come back here and push these wires back and get them hooked back in there where they're supposed to be. Then you can come back with the brace set it down in there. You might have to tweak this a little bit to get the brace to go in. You take one of your nuts without dropping it like I'm trying to do. You get it on there at least a few turns. You don't want to lose these nuts because you'll never find them. And the other one, in there as much as you can by hand. It speeds the process up. And then you take your short 10mm ratchet, tighten it back up. Once the tie down is back on, you move this panel back into place. This panel, you can spread this out a little bit, put it in the slot on one side, keep it high, spread it out, push it in the other side, it'll hit the slot, push down. Panel's now locked into place. Once that panel is in place, you can take the positive cable, reconnect it. Once again, here's your short 10mm. To tighten it up like so. Check it, make sure it's good. Then we'll have to put this cable back into place. This is simple push and play kind of thing. Push them back into place like so. There's another one down here, kind of off to the side. All your wiring is now back in place. Now the air box goes back into place. This can be a little tricky because there's a tab way over here, right by this thing. So you got to just finagle it and kind of just be patient. Best thing to do is try and get that air hose hooked on first, and then you'll have to come down here and kind of give it a little push and tug and wedge and really jump on it to try and get the thing to walk back down into the spot. This is much easier with two hands, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing here. So just remember, take your time, be easy, don't break it. When you're getting this air box back in, the big thing is make sure that this pin back here lines up and this pin right here lines up. Also check the gap on these two. This right here is the peg that holds this down, and this is part of that air tube. So you have to take this piece and fold it over it. Then you can take this piece and go back across and lock it up like that. Once that's in, you gotta put the air filter back in. There's actually a slot in the front where this air filter sits. So be very cautious of what you're doing. If you can see it right there, that little gap is supposed to go into that. So you're gonna have to push in a little bit and kind of make it fit. And I think this is indexed. It is. There's an indexer right there that I believe goes down. So make sure that indexer is straight down. Once the air filter's back on, we need to screw the screw back tight that holds the hose onto the intake, and then pop the air box top back on. Once the air box top is back on, we have 4 screws that need to be tightened back up. There's one here, one here, one right here, and one in the back. Reinstall your cover over the top of the battery. like so. Then we come back down here to the one thing I forgot, which is this ambient air temperature sensor. Make sure that guy's plugged in real good. And that is done. We're gonna grab these sockets, this wrench, remove these tools out of the way. We'll go ahead and give it a start. There you go. One battery installed. Hopefully this is helpful for a different way than taking the whole freaking cowl apart.